Hello and welcome to a video. In this video, we are going to look at one specific graph. So let me move ahead to this example. We are given a function that tells us the circulation of the magazine as a function of time. When I take a look at this function and I think about graphing it, the first things I want to do is I want to think about what's going to be on my x and my y axis. So because this c, the circulation, is what the function calculates, that's my y, and the input over here, the time, is my x-axis. So I am going to sketch out an axis, and I'm going to label my x-axis as time. And it says first 6 years since 2006. So I can label these 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can label these 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. And I know that the circulation here, this is the C, equals circulation. I am told that it is in thousands, so this is thousands. But I honestly don't have any idea how to label that axis because I don't know at all what the circulation is. So I'm going to go to my calculator before I get any further on this. So in my calculator, I want to type this. So I have 5.2. So I go over here, y equals, clear out anything, 5.2 divided by, and then because there's math in that denominator, I do have to group that denominator. So I have my first parenthesis, and then I'm going to put 0.1 plus 0.3 to the t. So 0.1 plus 0.3 caret key, and instead of t, I'm typing x because I'm on my calculator, and then I'm going to need to get out of my exponent notation and my parentheses. So that's the formula. Now, I need to label my graph, and I don't know how, so I'm going to go to set up my window. So set up my window, start at 0, go up by 1. That seems like it would show me the first 6 years. And so I'm going to go to my table, second, and the graph button. And my table shows me that circulation in the first 6 years goes up to 51.624 thousand. So I need my axis to go up to about 52. So I can go back to my drawing, and in my drawing, this needs to go up to about 52. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, give myself a little room, 60. Now, I actually want to see the graph, and I do not want to do it by hand and plot points. I want to see a big picture. So I'm going to my graphing calculator, and I'm going to set up my window based on what I've already drawn. So second, I don't actually want second. I just want the window button. So window button. On the x-axis, I'm supposed to show 6 years, so 0 to 6, that was told to me. On the y-axis, I've looked this up. Circulation goes up to about 52, and we made our drawing go from 0 to 60. So I have my graphing calculator matching the window that I have on my drawing. So I'm going to hit graph and see the shape. So I see that it didn't start really at 0. It starts up a little bit, and it gives me this curve that starts concave up, switches to concave down. So I'm going to attempt to draw that. So it doesn't quite start at 0, comes up, and levels off around 52. So I'm like a little bit above the 50 there. So the next thing that I'm at, so I finished the first bullet point. I've made a graph, okay, first 6 years. Next thing, I'm going to express in function notation the circulation of the magazine, 18 months of circulation. Well, when I looked at this problem, it told me time was in years. So 18 months, I think a moment, and I'm like, that is 1.5 years. Because I know 12 months is a year, so 12 plus 6 would give me 18, a year and a half. So my function is C, it told me that. So I'm going to be looking for the circulation at 1.5 years. And I'm supposed to find that value. All right, so I'm going to go to my calculator, and I've got actually a bunch of options here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use second and the trace button. And when I do that, it's getting me to this calculate menu, things it will calculate for me. And you see the first thing it will calculate for me is a value, and that's what I want. I want to know the value. So I hit enter for value, and it asks me what X do I want? Well, I figured out I wanted 1.5, and so I hit enter, and it gives me that value, and it even shows me where that is on the graph. So 19.673 if I round it off. So I'm going to write that down. This is 19.673 thousand. Now, I told you there was a couple different options. So we did the value, and we did that by using second and the trace key. And that got us to the calculate menu, and we chose to calculate a value. The other option that we have is to use our table. So I can do what I've been doing. So second table setup started at 0, and I want to see at 1.5. So I'm going to have to go up by half years. And then I can take a look in my table. And so here I see at the 1.5, the 19.673 that I saw before. So I can adjust my table to see that answer, or I can use the menu, the calculate menu. So then they asked me, over what time interval is the graph concave up? So I know concave up means that my palm needs to be up and I have a cup shape forming. So I see on this picture that I drew, it looks like from 2006 to 2008. But I actually want to go look at my graphing calculator because that's a better picture. So I'm going to hit the graph button. And I'm looking for where does the concavity change. So each of these are my years. And here, so year 0 is 2006, 2007, 2008. 2008 looks like an actual pretty good estimate on this graph. Now, if I want to see where I'm at, I can use the trace button. The trace button will allow me to move this along my axis. So if I put it on trace, there's the 2. That looks like it's right in the middle where the concavity changes. So where is it concave up? It looks like during the first 2 years. So from 2006 to 2008. What is happening? Well, circulation is increasing. That means it's going uphill. And what's happening to the rate? Well, it's at an increasing rate because the graph is getting steeper in that section. The second one, at what time was circulation increasing the fastest? So this is something that we talked about last week, and we know that increasing the fastest rate of change is at that point of inflection. Because we said prior to that, the rate of change increases. After that, the rate of change decreases. So the fastest is at the point of inflection. So what time is that? We thought that point of inflection was 2008. So we think that's our answer. And then what is the limiting value? So we talked about this last week as well, and we said the limiting value is like a lid or a glass ceiling. And when we looked for the limiting value, we want to look at where does this level off at. So just guessing from what we saw before, I think it's 52,000. And I'm going to look at my calculator to show me why I think it's 52,000. I find the table is the best place to look for a limiting value. So I'm going to reset up my table, start it at 0, and I'm going to actually go up by 5s now. And that's because I want to look in the long run, in the big picture. So I'm not really concerned with each individual year as I am with overall what's happening. And then I go to my table, and I notice that in short order, this tops out at 52,000. And so that 52,000, if I arrow over here and look at these exact values, I see that they all are very, very close. And then we just get to the point where the calculator just has to round to 52. And so that, from what we had seen initially when we drew our graph, the 52,000 is the limiting value. So then we're to explain in practical terms. And then what that means is circulation will never go beyond 52,000. And so whatever the magazine is, there's just a limit to how many people are going to buy it. So it doesn't matter how much advertising they do. There's only so many people that are ever going to buy a magazine, and particularly on any particular topic. So that is the limit for this magazine. So that took you through the entire example, graphing on our graphing calculator by typing this into the y equals, using the context clues, and then using the table to get the right window, and then using the value button to get an exact value for a specific point.